Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Let's Dream podcast. This is your host, Lee.
And I'm Casey Lucid. Hello, everyone.
We're back with another episode of Dream Interpretations. And just as always, we'll give our thoughts on these awesome dreams. We have a batch of nightmares for you all, keeping with the theme of October. And remember to check out the description for our Discord link. We'd love to have more people and talk about more dreams there. And so Casey is going to start us off with the first dream.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of nightmares today, it seems like. The first user is user Drugmosphere. Another great name to add to the list of great usernames. This dream is a recurring dream about killing a stranger. The dream goes, usually I don't dig too deep into my dreams, but recently I've been having really fucked up dreams every night that are leaving me very distraught. One of the dreams I keep having are where I'm with my girlfriend and a friend of mine on a balcony, and someone on the balcony next to me walks over into my place. They seem to be threatening me. They remind me of no one in particular that I've met, and they look like no one that I've ever seen in real life. But in a word, they just seem greasy and gross. They walk into my place, and after a few moments I start wrestling them to the ground, and I get them in a chokehold. It seems like ages that I'm strangling them, but they won't pass out, and they keep trying to pry my arms away from their neck. So I tell my friend to grab a knife, and he starts cutting their hands, but they won't give in and just won't pass out. Eventually, I always give up and let my friend start beating them with a frying pan. And even as they're becoming disfigured, they still won't die. It takes hours of beating them for them to finally die. And at the end of the dream, we start cleaning up and bringing the body to the dumpster. Oh my god. Wow.
Sorry for laughing, but I just find it so humorous that they're just like beating this thing up for like an hour. At least. Yeah,
it almost reminds me of like a dark comedy. Almost like that one scene in Austin Powers where that one scientist, I guess, gets killed. Was it Will Ferrell? Remember that? He gets killed and then he gets like shot and then stabbed and like he just can't, like won't die, like over and over. But this seems a lot more graphic.
Yeah.
Jeez, what do you make of that?
It's really bizarre. So this is reoccurring.
I was going to say, maybe something that just won't leave their mind. Maybe something or someone from the past that they keep trying to like remove from their mind, but just won't leave them alone.
Yeah. So the characters in this are their GF, them, and a friend of theirs. Interestingly enough, the GF kind of like doesn't matter, but she was there in the beginning and then she's gone. I don't know if that's anything, but...
Yeah, side note, whenever anybody says GF online, I immediately think of Final Fantasy VIII and Guardian Forces. I don't know if anybody else. Anyway.
I think that's a reach, buddy.
That's just me. I played way too much Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, so I think you might be on something where it's like, hey, there's this kind of, might even not be a person, might be a theme that's coming in their life and that's coming in to try and ruin them. You know, like an example I could think of it would be like...
Like an addiction, maybe?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Like a gambling addiction?
Something gross and greasy.
Yeah.
Not that this person has one, but it kind of seeps their way into the life, and even though they might have support from a friend or themselves, they try to beat it up, and it takes hours and hours to cull it down.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me of something kind of weird. So I usually function best on kind of like a low-carb diet. Like if I stay below 50 grams of carbs per day, I feel pretty good. But if I have no carbs for a while, then I start getting like these really ridiculously intense cravings to the point where I'll have like dreams and nightmares about it. So like this kind of reminds me of that. It's like something that maybe like they haven't, I don't know, come to some kind of a conclusion with that just keeps recurring.
Yeah, so have you eliminated something from your lifestyle that might be necessary?
Yeah, well, like for me, for example, it was like I used to think that carbs are evil, so I would just like completely try to cut them out. But I could go like maybe a month or two without eating carbs, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I would get like this ridiculous, ravenous, like just rage of eating like all kinds of like bread and chocolate and like sweets and fruit, and then I'm just like sitting there on the floor like passed out, like, oh, what just happened? But like I figured out that if I eat some carbs, but don't overeat on carbs, I actually do really, really well. Like better if I don't eat any carbs at all, which is kind of like weird to come to a conclusion of.
I don't think that's weird at all. I think that's perfectly normal. Your body does need carbs, you know? Just as this person might need this thing, whatever it is. Even though it's gross and greasy, do you think it's like a greasy burger or something?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So maybe that's why it's so hard for them to kill it, because maybe like their subconscious is trying to tell them that this is something that they need, or at least need to figure out how to control or balance.
Yeah.
I see.
Balancing would be the term I would use here.
Yeah. Man, balancing's hard.
Yep. I mean, would your dreams be so graphic as this? Because I think the level of violence is what's kind of distraughting this dreamer.
Yeah, dude. Well, like, so what's crazy is like fitting in with the theme of Halloween. Like, I remember having this like really, really disgusting dream, like where I remember like thinking like this was when I was having like those huge cravings for carbs. I remember having this one really intense dream where it was like in the movie Alien, where like the alien like busts out of like the gut of, like, or the stomach of a person, or I guess it busts out of their chest. In my case, out of my stomach, like these like fungus looking, like fungal mushroom looking like ants and like insects like came out of my body and started devouring my body. And that was something that I had like a variation of that dream a couple of times.
Wow.
Like it was very, very disturbing.
Yeah. So let's say, hey, if there's something that you really try to cut out in your life, maybe it's time to like take another look at it, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of when somebody has like a bad relationship with somebody else and they just try to completely cut out that person, but which that is the correct thing to do in some situations, don't get me wrong. But like sometimes maybe they need some resolution. Like they need to at least talk to the person before cutting them out completely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know.
So that's it for the first one. The next one is from user associate ambitious 6. This person titles their nightmare Ancient Werewolf Vampire. So I just had this dream and it was starting, to say the least. In the earliest part of the dream I can remember, I was being hunted by a bounty hunter of some kind, or a shitty jigsaw. My friends that I have no clue about start to die from some kind of poison. We asked the waiter to check to see who was outside for us, as one of my friends got a call. The waiter went to see who it was and were kidnapped. Now this is the strangest part of the dream. The dream seemed to cut like a video that was edited in a straight cut, but it seemed like like I was cutting into my past dreams, and I was back at my house and I opened the door for my dog. But when I did, my father started yelling at me for startling him. I found it strange as he never yells about the door opening or closing. When I hear scratching at the door, I just go to let the dog in. Before I can, the night illuminated like I just put on a night vision mask, but instead of a green tint, the world had seemed to go black and white like the old TV shows. That's when I see a tall, furry figure, looking closer as it seemed to have fangs like a vampire. Tall, spiked ears like elves. It had wrinkles on its forehead, and not enough to look like it was an old man, but enough to think that this was some kind of ancient being. In its hand it had a letter, and when I made eye contact, it seemed to have dead, ancient eyes. Then it screeched. At that point, I had slammed the door closed again, and again, my father had yelled at me to not startle him. Then I woke up on a daze.
Okay.
And they also mentioned in like a comment, someone asked about like what parts were vampire and what parts were werewolves, and they describe it as do you know the Skyrim's vampire lore transformation? That's the closest thing I can find to look similar.
Okay.
Imagine it covered with hair in the hands and feet, face, and the wrinkles not as much.
Okay.
It looks old, but not to like decrepit old, but enough to know that it was ancient. And then no, it didn't have wings, but looked thinner and more famished. I just like the description.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think?
They were being hunted by a bounty hunter, and then they end up in a restaurant. They don't really specify. They just ask away.
Yeah. It seemed like the dream just kind of took them to a restaurant place where they were just like, "Hey, check out what's going outside," and then people start disappearing.
Okay, so let's see. So from the very beginning of the dream, there's some kind of a predator involved, and they feel like the prey. And then
yep.
A werewolf, a wolf is a predator, so So I don't know, I guess there seems to be an overarching theme of the dreamer feeling like they're prey or someone is chasing them.
Yeah.
But then
something old.
Yeah, and vicious, and I don't know, like Jigsaw. When they say Jigsaw, I assume that's the guy, the psychopath from the
Saw movies.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely they're afraid of some kind of like a predatory figure. But it's interesting because the werewolf was holding a letter, right? That's what they said?
Yeah. Yeah, in its hand it had a letter, and when I made eye contact, they saw the dead ancient eyes.
So, So it's almost like they're afraid of what this scary figure may be bringing to them. Like, it may not necessarily be like physical harm to them, but maybe a message, which could cause some kind of like psychological harm. I don't know, mental harm. I wonder if they're trying to avoid something in real life. Do you think that's a stretch? Or?
No, I think that's kind of on the trail of it. And with these types of things, what I've noticed in like this dream and the past dream, it has to do with like some of the people around them as well, right?
Yeah.
So they have their friends, and this one had their friends and then eventually their father in it. So it's like something in their past, because they also mentioned that, hey, this kind of vision cut into like my past. It seemed like in the beginning they were friends, and then all of a sudden their past hit them. Presumably maybe like, I don't know, when everyone disappeared around it was just him and the ancient being werewolf thing. And then that's where they made contact, right? And then how they interpret that contact was like diving into the past with their father, and then the ancient being holding a letter for them.
Oh, yeah. It cut into their past. That's interesting.
Yeah. So you know, like when you encounter something, you have like this flashback.
Yeah.
This is what I kind of imagine.
Yeah, actually, good point. So there's something significant that's like calling to them, but it's also represented into this like frightening figure. Yeah, like when you meet someone that you haven't seen in years that you completely forgot about, immediately all those memories rush back. Yeah. And that's kind of like what happened, but in real time in the dream.
Yeah, and in a more supernatural sense, because, you know, maybe the figure actually, they made contact, and then the figure kind of like did this mind dominance thing to like enter their consciousness or something. I don't know. Okay. I mean, the whole thing seems supernatural. That's how I kind of read it.
Yeah, definitely does. So you think maybe there's just something that they're not confronting or from their past that they haven't resolved?
Yeah, like this kind of pressure or this chasing feeling or this feeling of like not being able to like get away from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the first dream. Very similar to
Yeah. I think if they're nightmares, they'll have like very similar themes. Things that people aren't seeing, things people are not realizing, things that are bothering them but they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the most common ones, just running away or fighting, I guess. But yeah, if the listeners have anything that they'd like to contribute, I'd like to hear what they have to say in terms of what they think as far as their interpretation.
Yeah, you know, but in this dream, the figure was just frightening. There wasn't when they made contact, it's not like they were jumped on, right?
Right. Yeah.
Their friends were jumped on.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it's like it was waiting for them to make the first move and go towards it, not like this past is gonna eat them up.
I see. So maybe they're worried about how this thing, whatever it may be, would affect their friends or their present friends.
Yeah, the people around them.
Good point. That's a very interesting dream. And let's see. So the next one that we have is from user Slightly Evil Man, another great username. They titled this one Time Travel, and they labeled it as a recurring dream. So I seem to be able to time travel in my dreams. I can only travel to the past or the future, it seems, and I have no control where I end up. It's weird because I still have the ability to know I'm asleep, but most of the times I'm not actually myself, if that makes sense. As a lucid dreamer, normally I can affect the course of the dream if I focus, but I wonder why I have these random jumps through time in the first place. And that was it. That's a very short dream. I wish they posted a little bit more about like what it looks like where they jump, but I assume it's all over the place, kind of like how they mentioned. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, so it sounds like they're lucid, but they have not like total control of like their time jumps, right?
Yeah, like a little more information would be useful on this one, but it seems like because oftentimes, like with me at least, I'll be dreaming about something and then I'll become lucid, and it's rare that I intentionally wake up in a dream that I wanted to lucid dream about.
I think this is enough information.
Okay.
Because they're not actually talking about the dreams. They're talking about like what is their effect, and why can't they control it.
Okay.
So I find it interesting that they said that they still have the ability to know that they're asleep, so they're lucid, right? And at the same time, they're not actually themselves like jumping through the time.
Yeah. So they
like,
just find themselves in these.
Yeah, and they're not themselves in these like time travels. Like more information could be useful because like if you jump into like the past and you're like Abraham Lincoln or something, that'd be fascinating. But as far as like why, I think it's very interesting.
I wonder what the person's interests are, because like for example, a lot of my dreams are like sci-fi and cartoonish kind of almost comic book feel, because like that's kind of like what interests me. Also folklore, a lot of folklore in my dreams, but because like for example, another user, the Grand History Emperor, who always submits like these really interesting elaborate historical dreams, obviously he's got a interest in the subject, so he often dreams about that. So I wonder if this person, I don't know, has an interest in different like time periods or like...
Well, we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I maybe a reason why they, depending on where their interest is.
Yeah, I can see where you're trying to go with that. Like, if they have an interest in the future or the past and how, like, maybe the past affects the future, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's how I see it, right?
Okay.
It's like, so when you think about it, what can you control in life?
Close to nothing. Your dreams, if you're a lucid dreamer.
Sure. So you can't control the future. You can't control the past.
Right.
You can control the present, right? Your actions, what you do.
Right.
And that's kind of like your locus of control.
Yeah.
So the way I see this is like, hey, they're jumping into the past or the future and they're trying to control it.
Okay.
And they have no idea where they're going to end up. And maybe they really want to control the past and the future, right?
Ooh.
And maybe there's in reality, that's impossible. Because you can only control yourselves. That is your focus. That is your locus of control. So if you just surrender your control to like wherever you end up and be fine, I feel like you would end up having more control.
Oh, I see. Oh, you think that maybe this person is too worried about like the past or the future and not enough focus on the present?
Yeah, it could be.
Okay. I see that.
Like they even said normally I can affect, they can control the course of the dream if they focus. But then they're like, why do I have the random jumps through time in the first place, right?
Yeah, it is kind of, there's a feeling of displacement with that, kind of like, because you can only think about the past and you can only think about the future. And, like a dream is basically entirely made up of thoughts. So yeah, this person is like maybe overemphasizing their concerns of the future or the past. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe. Or their sense of control in the past and the future is really lacking. Or they're too focused on what they did in the past or what they can do for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like a hard thing to come to grips with, though. Like, I think we all fall into that. Like, I know I often stop and think about the past and then, like, worry about the future. But in reality, I can only deal with the present. So it's such a conundrum,
Yeah, it's also because we're conditioned and trained to think this way. When we're growing up, we're like, oh, what do you want to be in the future? Oh, hey, you got to do this for your future.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you haven't done shit in the past? Oh, you're screwed for your future, right? Like,
yeah.
We've all heard that growing up, and now it's like, we all feel like shit.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's, hopefully that helps, Slightly Evil Man. Hopefully you'll be a slightly good man next time.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's plenty. Let's move on to the next one.
All right, so for the last dream, we have from user Howlin V. They title it, "I can't believe my brain thought of this situation." Hello, I'm a longtime dreamer and tend to be one of those people that never remembers their positive dreams, just really dark nightmares. I am 26 and just had a dream that left me feeling overwhelmed with emotions. It was on the verge of a night terrors because it felt so long and a never-ending cycle. It started where I was abruptly woken up to smoke while visiting a family member's home with my immediate family. There was a fire, so we all abruptly grabbed our stuff and slowly ran into the car. As we were heading into the car, we had a plan of going to the airport. I saw my dad outside trying to help a kid as he was staying behind, and somehow the kid killed my dad and I watched. Shocked. Then I saw the kid throw my dad to the fire and my siblings were telling me to get in the car and that we had to get out of there. Apparently, we drove to the New York airport and for some reason, I was carrying lots of bags, and then I lost my family. That is where the dream got even more twisted. For some reason, everyone was talking about me, making rude comments, glaring at me, as well as trying to steal my items. I was on edge and high alert in my dream when they made an announcement that I had to unboard the plane and go talk to the police. Apparently, since I was the last one to see my dad, I was being framed for his murder. At this point, no matter what I said or how hard I explained to the cops, people never believed me. At this point, they said that I couldn't leave the airport or board any planes as I was suspect for murder. They, however, didn't arrest me, and I was just going dazed in my dreams, walking the airport over and over again, trying to get help or talk to anyone that would listen. Then, as what felt like the third day of being in the airport with no money and no way of leaving the guys I noticed that were following me around, I decided to approach and talk to them, and when they pushed me into an elevator, they started taunting me. The oldest man of the group pulled out a weapon while I was in the elevator, and then he told me his friend was going to rape me in the airport parking lot and there was nothing I could do about it. I remember being thrown out of the elevator after seeing the guy's friend and just feeling so confused because I was finally getting out of the airport, but now I was stuck in a parking lot with a man threatening me with a weapon and a guy grinning at me. Then I woke up with drool all over my pillow and the feeling of my heart beating so fast. It was one of the longest and more unpleasant dreams I've ever had. Yeah, this is rough.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this person's had a rough experiences in life so far.
Yeah, I wonder what the relationship with their parent or parents is. So their father was killed and they were going to go away. They thought that they were framed for it. So they got stuck in a place of transition. And then in that place of transition, there's fear of uncertainty, like uncertain variables like weird men or just anything really.
Violence. Yeah, so overall this is rough. So overall there's this feeling of powerlessness, hopelessness almost.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing in this dream was in their control, even when they tried hard, right? So they saw their dad get killed by a little kid, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to make of that, but that's awful. But as you said, they went to the place of transition and their family members disappeared. And all of a sudden, people are suspecting them, talking about them rudely. There's kind of almost paranoia, this kind of scrutiny that they're receiving without like any cause for it, right? Mm-hmm. These bad things just happen. And even in this kind of area of transition, they're even bullied into stopping. Even when they try to like make a change, like they're stopped by some kind of force, be it violence or maybe past trauma.
Yeah.
But they're indeed stopped and stuck.
So, okay, like I kind of made up like a situation. You let me know if this makes any sense. So going along with a lot of what you said, like let's say this person had to leave home, They said that they're 26 in the dream. So let's say this person had to leave home eventually at some point, and maybe the circumstances were not ideal when they left, and they thought that they had other friends or family or people that they thought cared about them with them or on their side. And when they finally got to the airport, when they started making the transition, the people disappeared, but they were left with all this luggage, and they were unable to navigate and just kind of got scrambled. And then external factors that they had difficulty maneuvering confronted them in a way that they weren't able to overcome. So that's what I'm thinking.
It's possible. We can't say for sure.
Definitely cannot say for sure.
The life events.
Yeah.
But I think the theme fits pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks to... Yeah, man, like... You know, I don't think I've ever had any dreams of anybody threatening to rape me. I wonder if this is a woman that wrote this. I'm only thinking this because I talked to a lot of people about dreams, and I don't know if it's like just a gender specific thing, but like I've never heard of a guy thinking about like having dreams about being raped, but I've definitely heard multiple women tell me dreams about like threat of being raped.
Yeah, so I think women need to be more careful when they go out, and that's kind of like their daily lives. Like, it's really sad.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that inclines me to think that this may be a lady that wrote this.
I would say I would agree. Yeah, and like, there's not a worse experience than like screaming to the world that, hey, you're innocent, that you've done nothing wrong, and then having life or whatever is thrown at you, saying, hey, you suck, and that's it. You're being sucked. Your existence sucks. And this is what it's kind of like I'm seeing. Even though they're like, voicing it out, like no one believes them that they didn't kill their parents or their family, and they're just stuck, and then they're like bashed for it.
Yeah, man, like that, I agree. That's a horrible feeling. Like you're telling the truth, but people think the exact opposite. And I can think of one specific time in high school. Like I actually got into a fist fight with a good friend of mine, specifically because of something that was completely not true, and he didn't believe me. And hey, but with guys, you just need to get into a fist fight, and then you're best friends. So anyway. Sorry. Side note.
Yeah, I don't know how many guy friends fight anymore.
Well, I mean, we're older now, so,
I mean, even younger kids, like, I don't even know if they fight anymore with each other.
That's true. I don't know. That's interesting. I mean,
I'm very curious.
Hopefully people are supposed to, like, maybe, like, evolve and progress and maybe become a little more conscious of their actions, but that was definitely a thing when I was younger. But...
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, hopefully this person has left their place of transition and is in a good spot, because that's what I'm inclined to think based off of this dream. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's it for the dream stories today. And if anybody has any dreams that they want to share with us, you can do so in the description. Just check out the subreddit. That's usually where people post, or you can send us messages directly, email us, or just in our Discord. And also for visuals, you can check out the YouTube channel and the Instagram. That's where we put a lot of the visuals that go along with these. As always, thank you to everyone that joined us and everyone that sent us dreams, and I'll see you all next time.